Part 62. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Se Nian Bai. Chapter 611. A person wants to do what he wants to do in the shortest time and achieve certain results, in short, to achieve success. What is the most important thing? Talent, wisdom, sweat, concentration, all right, and none of them. In Su Ming's opinion, either he has a golden finger, or he has a good husband or a good father. Nangongyan is such a person. She has a good father and a good husband. This husband has a golden finger. Being able to find such a husband among billions of people is a golden finger that is more exaggerated than a golden finger. This is called God's favor. God promises you a prosperous and worry-free life. What else can you say? Sometimes Su Ming feels that his life is not as good as Nangongyan's. With a golden finger, he has become a life of hard work. It is not difficult for the queen to run a small internal newspaper. Su Ming said that he could not support anything except money. In fact, how could he not help at all? This is the first time that Nangongyan took the initiative to request and independently operate a project. Whether it is out of concern or encouragement of her enthusiasm, Su Ming secretly gave great help, and everything went smoothly. Nangongyan was also very concerned. She found a group of journalism students from her alma mater, Yangchuan University, to work for her and set up a small studio. After working overtime for a week, a beautifully printed internal newspaper sample came out. The first issue of Daowin Journal. The background of the cover is the only golf course in Yangchuan City. On the rolling green land, Su Ming is wearing jodhpurs and long boots, wearing a riding cap, holding a lion in one hand and a small whip in the other, smiling at the camera, a complete successful person. This photo took a whole morning. Considering Su Ming's current net worth, it is definitely a luxury to spend a whole morning taking photos. The economic value behind this photo is much greater than the photo itself. This is the first issue of the company's journal. Su Ming is the big boss of the company and her boyfriend. Not only for the sake of the company's face, but also because of a woman's nature of must make her boyfriend look bright and beautiful. Nangong has high standards and strict requirements for the cover photo, completely in accordance with the standards of the Paris fashion show. It should not only highlight the aura of wealth and nobleness, but also have inner temperament, and have a strong sense of success, but not be pretentious. This is the end of Su Ming's life. He can be pretentious and low-key, but to show both of them in one photo at the same time, I can only say that I really can't do it. After much persuasion, I finally photoshopped the eyes and finally passed the test of the queen. Looking at the cover, it is the first page of the magazine. The cover is the signature face, and the first page is the central idea and the introduction of the whole article. Nangongyan's original idea was to let Su Ming follow the convention and write an opening speech, a message, and the like to promote the corporate culture and inspire the fighting spirit of employees. Su Ming thought about it and felt that he didn't want to follow the trend and write this message. First, Su Ming felt that corporate culture was more of a spiritual thing, an atmosphere, and it could not be summarized in a few simple words. If you want employees to feel the corporate culture, you must take the lead in the leadership, and after the company has achieved common goals again and again, it will subtly infect each employee. Each employee in different positions will be aware of their feelings. Everyone may use different words to define the corporate culture they feel, but the general direction and overall feeling are consistent. A few official words that are used to define corporate culture, empty preaching, and the tone of a successful person pointing the way from a high position will only make most employees impatient. It is better to let employees experience it themselves in practice, and even gather a spiritual will from the grassroots level. The corporate culture formed in this way is the most real and down-to-earth. The role of the leadership is to set an example and guide, not empty preaching. Second, the personnel composition of each company is very mixed, and long speeches are not suitable for everyone. Some employees are not well educated, such as workers in a winery. They can recognize all the characters, but if they are asked to read a long article with more than 300 words, they will be confused, unless it is a novel. Some office staff, such as Sister Tong, are down-to-earth types. If you talk to them about fashion magazines, family affairs, and vegetable markets, they can talk endlessly for an afternoon, but they will definitely be annoyed by long political and economic papers. Another part of the employees with a higher vision and who have seen some of the world, such as Lawyer Liang, knows in his heart that this is the boss's management method. He may take a few glances at it, but he will not take it to heart. Since these employees are under great work pressure, they may not have time to read it carefully. On the contrary, if Su Ming's opening message is not well written and his level is not enough, he will be embarrassed in front of such people, making them underestimate this leader. Of course, long articles, talking about feelings, and exploring life and ideals are not completely without a market. Several technical geeks in the information department who are dull on the outside but coquettish on the inside like to read this kind of articles. In short, Su Ming was not going to write a long and flowery article. But the first issue was the founding issue, and Su Ming, as a big leader, couldn't help but express his opinion. Su Ming thought about it and finally wrote 8 big words. Internal publication, limited edition. Including his signature, a total of 10 words. Nangongyan's face turned green. Isn't this just perfunctory? I asked you to write a thank you message, but you just messed around like this? Su Ming said nonchalantly, don't worry, these 8 words are better than 1,000 words. The first page has a mysterious pure black background, a low-key and luxurious gold border, 8 pure white regular script characters, and a slightly smaller signature of Su Ming on the lower right. Except for the first page, the style of the entire journal is based on intuitive pictures, with text. The pictures are required to highlight the theme, with a healthy and positive style, and the pictures are exquisitely made. The text should be as concise as possible, with more short sentences, less or no long paragraphs, and it is best to be able to read 10 lines at a glance to avoid reading difficulties. The content is reported by each company, and the range of materials is very wide, ranging from employee activities to company goals. In principle, each company and independent department should appear at least once in every 3 issues to ensure that no unit will be out of the sight of all employees for too long. If a company or department has clues worth reporting, it can be reported in one issue, or serialized in installments. Nangongyan's small studio is responsible for collecting and compiling the final version. It is tentatively scheduled to be a monthly magazine, with 1 issue per month. Since it is a limited edition, the quantity is definitely limited. It should be distinguished from the brochures that are placed at the company gate for free. Each company distributes them at a 1:1 ratio according to the employee ratio. Each employee will receive 1 copy, and no one is too many. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 612. The journal was quickly distributed to every employee. The company has its own physical journal, which is itself a proof of strength. In the eyes of discerning people, making internal journals is a precautionary move for the helmsman to develop ideas and establish corporate culture after the company has grown to a certain scale, so as to make the internal of this big ship more stable so as to sail more smoothly in the future. Ordinary employees certainly can't think so much. Their most intuitive impression is that the company has become bigger and richer. The ancients said that when you are full and warm, you think about, oh no, material needs take precedence over spiritual needs, and cultural construction is based on economic development. If the company does not have a certain scale and does not make money, how can the boss make a journal? Let a company with a lot of debts and may go bankrupt at any time try it, and see if he has the leisure to make a journal. If you want employees to have confidence in the company, the most direct way is by no means to preach the truth and talk about feelings, but to show the company's strength. Although the journal is small, all employees get it in their hands. The first feeling is that this is too extravagant, right? Exquisite packaging, wood-carved frames, perfumed paper, covers and bottom pages several centimeters thick, high-quality photos that can be submitted to newspapers. This is not an internal journal of the company, it is simply made according to the grade of wedding photos. Su Ming's usual idea is either not to do it or to do it well. From this exquisite journal, without Su Ming saying anything, the employees vaguely felt what kind of style this boss has. Even making an internal journal is meticulous. It is probably impossible to work under him and fool around. The content of the journal is the same, and employees at different levels have some surprises in the details of the journals they get. The most basic employees have ordinary plywood wooden frames, the middle-level cotters have more expensive natural wood materials, and several company bosses have redwood frames. The naked inequality, the simplest and crudest means, has played a good incentive effect. After receiving the journal, everyone was a little at a loss. If they put it on the table, they were afraid of people coming and going, and if they knocked over a cup and stained it, they would feel a little timid and inexperienced if they locked it in a drawer. Leaders with independent offices were more relaxed. Wang Hao directly made a frame and put the first journal in it. Together with a pile of medals, he placed it on the most conspicuous cabinet in the office. Many employees followed suit and made a small shelf and placed it on the table with family photos. Opening the first page of the journal, a strong sense of superiority came to me. Internal Journal, Limited Edition. What is internal? It is something that cannot be bought on the market, that ordinary people do not know, and that you can't get in touch with it without any connections. This is internal. Internal information of listed companies, internal positions reserved for employees' children in monopoly industries, internal benefits only for employees of the unit, internal channels obtained through special relationships, legendary internal special products. Anything related to the word internal is full of a magical meaning that you understand. What is limited edition? If you have money, you may not be able to buy it, that is limited edition. You are rich, you are awesome, you can buy cars, planes, and tanks, but can you buy limited edition things? Not necessarily. And limited edition also means room for appreciation. If the production level of this journal is no different from the ordinary impurities that cost 3 or 5 yuan a copy and are used to pad the legs of mahjong tables on the street, then the two words internal and limited are meaningless, but will become a laughing stock. But the quality of the journal is impeccable, and it is higher than the wedding album of ordinary wedding studios, which immediately highlights the meaning of internal and limited edition. There is a number printed on the last page of each journal, which means that each journal is an independent individual and unique. There are no two identical leaves in the world. There are many unique things in the world, but what does that have to do with you? No matter how rich you are, if you spend money to buy the Cullinan diamond on the head of the Queen of England, it can only prove that you have ownership, but the diamond itself has no direct connection with you. However, the content of the journal is closely related to the well-being of all employees. In the dozens of pages of the first issue, almost one-third of the employees' faces appear in group photos or individual photos. Several students in our studio are talking about you behind your back, Nangongyan said to Su Ming while holding a rose-red journal that was exclusively for her. What are you talking about me? Handsome, Su Ming raised his chin at himself on the cover of the journal. Humph, no matter how handsome he is, I am the only one who has it. No one else has anything to do with it. Nangongyan waved her hand like a female bandit leader and said, people praise you for your talent. Just publish a corporate journal and you can mobilize the enthusiasm of employees at once. The cohesion of the company is suddenly enhanced. It doesn't cost much, but the effect is very good. Of course, because I have a big secret that no one else has, Su Ming said mysteriously. Ah? What secret? Tell me. Nangongyan came over curiously and asked. Su Ming suddenly hugged her waist and brought her over to sit on his lap. He first kissed her on the cheek, then smiled and said, because I have a good wife, she is beautiful and capable, and it is useless for others to envy me. You have such a sweet mouth. Nangongyan stretched out a finger, smiled and lifted Su Ming's chin, leaned forward and said, "Come, let me taste it. Is it smeared with honey?" Su Ming suddenly extended a section of his tongue, licked Nangong's pink lips quickly, and said with a grim smile, "Speaking of being capable, I can't do it today." Nangong decisively interrupted Su Ming's rosy fantasy, held back his laughter, and said with a straight face, "My relatives are here." Su Ming cursed. After the journal was issued, the results were not entirely positive, and there were several small disputes. The first one was a cross-departmental dispute. A geek from the information department went to the live broadcast platform of an entertainment company to upgrade the system. A female anchor of the live broadcast platform received him out of kindness. The female anchor made a cup of coffee for the geek. The geek probably had never been treated to a beautiful woman handing coffee to him. He was a little excited, and his hand shook and knocked over the coffee cup, and half of the cup of coffee was spilled on the female anchor's journal. The journal was of good quality, so it was not ruined, but the coffee stain on the cover was definitely not removable. The technical guy kept apologizing and the female anchor was so angry that she stomped her feet, but the guy didn't do it on purpose and she couldn't ask him to pay compensation, so she could only post on the internal forum to ask if she could reissue the journal. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 613. It is limited, and it is limited. One copy for each employee. Except for the template saved in Nangongyan's computer, there is no more. Not to mention the employee version, even if Wang Hao's journal was splashed with coffee, it is impossible to reissue it. If it can be reissued casually, the preciousness of the journal will definitely be greatly reduced. Su Ming occasionally visits the internal website and happened to see this post. After seeing the photo of the disfigured journal posted by the female anchor, Su Ming was furious. You said you want to splash coffee, so just splash coffee, but you have to splash it on my pants in the photo? A pair of white breeches with a light coffee stain. Those who know will say that someone splashed coffee, and those who don't know will think that I peed my pants when taking the photo. Punish, must punish. Leave a message in the forum, saying that this matter can't be completely blamed on the otaku. There is a water dispenser in the unit. Why did you send coffee and autumn spinach? He is an honest man, how can he not be distracted? Of course, it was mainly because the otaku was wrong. He was punished to help the female anchor repair the computer and be available at any time within half a year. Nangongyan couldn't stand up straight after hearing this. She said that the technical otaku must be so happy in his heart that he would definitely be devoted to you from now on. What is this called, picking up girls by order? Look at my heart, what is called repaying evil with virtue? Su Ming laughed, this otaku brother, I can only help you so far. This matter is still a happy one, but the other one is not so pleasant. The factory site and employee dormitories of Dashan wine industry are both in the mountains. Most employees live in dormitories on weekdays. In their spare time, they often drink a little wine and play cards with a little prize. Su Ming knew this situation. This is different from the nature of some middle-level cotters taking the lead in gambling. It is entertainment and it is impossible to completely eliminate it. There is no need to control it too strictly. As long as it is controlled to a certain extent and not out of line, it will be fine. The problem lies in the prize. The initial workers of the winery were mostly from Shenzhen, and they were Su Ming's old team. Later, the expansion recruited some non-local employees. Su Ming was relatively familiar with the situation of the winery. In addition, he had dealt with 2 cases of middle-level cotters gambling, so the workers knew that the boss would not let them play big, and they usually won or lost tens of dollars. That day, a worker suddenly had a new idea and used their journals as bets. The treatment of winery workers was good, with a guaranteed annual salary of 60,000 to 70,000 yuan, but if you take tens of thousands of yuan back home, you will always spend it all. Besides, you can't show off a few stacks of money when you see your fellow villagers. Journals are different. They are placed in the main hall of the house, and anyone who comes can see them at a glance, which is absolutely face-saving. As a result, the losers refused to pay, saying that it was not enough for me to pay. Of course, the winners refused to do it, and they had a few words and a fight. They played landlord. When playing cards, 3 families beat 1. When the landlord won, when fighting, it became 3 against 1, and 3 losers beat the landlord 1. Fortunately, the surrounding employees intervened and nothing serious happened. The landlord who won at night was unwilling to give up, so he sneaked into the dormitory of the other 3 people, stole the journals of the 3 people and burned them. The nature of this was suddenly different. The security department of Dashan wine industry reported the situation to Su Ming. After Su Ming understood the situation clearly, he made several decisions. The landlord who burned the journal was directly fired, received 3 months of salary compensation and left. This compensation was deducted from the other 3 people. In addition to the compensation, the half-year bonus was also deducted, and a serious demerit was recorded, and he was kept in the factory for observation. The leader of the winery security department, Lao Chu, was from the zoo security department. He was a comrade in arms of Lao Dong and an old acquaintance of Su Ming. He was also straightforward. When he saw the punishment opinion, he was a little confused. The cause of the incident was that the other 3 people did not keep their promises and beat people. Not only did the landlord not get the journal he deserved, but he was also beaten. He couldn't help but steal the journal and burn it to vent his anger. In the end, no serious consequences were caused. Direct dismissal seemed too severe. From a logical point of view, the main fault lies with the other 3 people. Su Ming's handling of the matter seems to be a bit indiscriminate. Old Chu, even if you don't ask, I have to tell you clearly about this matter. After you go back, you must also explain the situation to everyone. Su Ming and Old Chu had a special chat. Those 3 people did something wrong, so their punishment was not light. But in the final analysis, these 3 people are moral issues, but the problem of the landlord is bigger. It is a legal issue. First of all, theft cannot be escaped. Secondly, he burned books in the mountains, which is to say, at the least, it is destroying other people's property, and at the most, it is very likely to cause a forest fire. That's a lot of fun. Arson is enough to get the head, and the winery is also in trouble. Old Chu, not only do you have to explain it clearly to the employees, but this matter will also be in the next issue of the journal. The law is the bottom line of morality. In a backward place, if everyone does not talk about morality but abides by the law, then it will eventually become normal and morality will return. On the contrary, in a seemingly civilized society, everyone even abides by the law but talks about morality, and eventually the society will be full of hypocrites and hooligans. In fact, there is another reason, but it can only be told to Old Chu. The workers' cultural quality is generally not high. Sometimes drinking a little and losing a little money and fighting are not a big deal. Who doesn't get angry? The landlord was not beaten seriously, but he sneaked into the other 3 dormitories that were not in the same dormitory as him at night to steal things, and set fire to books in revenge, which shows that this person has an extreme personality and a strong desire for revenge. Su Ming investigated. According to the old employee from Shenzhen who lived in the same dormitory with him, this landlord was a bit shady. He often read novels at night and said something like, "Repay today's insult tenfold, if you ignore me today, I will make you unable to reach me tomorrow," you have to be honest when you are out there. If I say I will kill your whole family, I will kill your whole family, not one less. This is a dangerous person. Such people cannot be kept. Boss Su, I understand what you said, old Chu said with a bitter face. I will definitely educate everyone when I go back. Can we not publish the next issue of the journal? What do you think a journal is? I run this journal to tell employees what is right and what is wrong. What is beautiful and what is ugly, not only honor, but also experience and lessons. Su Ming glared. What the society outside is like, I can't control it and don't want to control it, but in my own little land, I hope to be a clean person, do things uprightly, and have bottom lines and principles. Seeing that the big leader had this determination, old Chu stood up, habitually put his legs together, straightened his back and said seriously, don't worry, leader, I understand. I will definitely convey it to all employees to correct the bad atmosphere in the winery as soon as possible. The two small accidents seemed to have been handled, but they reminded Su Ming. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 614. In the final analysis, the root of both incidents is that young people are full of energy and have nowhere to vent. Other companies are better, after all, the employees still have their own lives, but the winery is semi-closed management, employees live in the mountains, and there are few extracurricular activities except for work. If they hold it in for a long time, they will inevitably cause trouble. There is also the lure community, which is even more so. Of the 200 lure people, a small half came from the battlefield, and the rest are young and strong in the tribe. They are not in trouble now because they are loyal to themselves and have not yet fully integrated into the Chinese environment, so they must stick together. But what about the future? After a long time, it is hard to guarantee that there will be no moths. It is best to organize some competitive activities within the company, which can not only let them vent their excess energy and exercise, but also unite employees. In addition, when the conditions are right, you can also consider forming an internal arbitration department of the company. Some minor faults that are not illegal can be resolved by the internal arbitration department of the company. At the same time as the journal, the cooperation negotiations between the film and television company and Disney were carried out. Cai Liming was responsible for the matters at the negotiation table. After a week, the two sides reached a preliminary agreement. So fast, Su Ming was slightly stunned when he received the first draft of the agreement. For such a large amount negotiation, it was not surprising that the two sides would fight for 1 or 2 months. Unexpectedly, there was a result in a week. It turned out that he had not misjudged Cai Liming. With such a high salary, if I don't work hard and lose my job, wouldn't I be stupid? Cai Liming laughed, I am lucky. The other party is very anxious and wants to finalize it as soon as possible. They are anxious, so I pretend not to be anxious, so I took advantage of the negotiation and the speed was also accelerated. The more modest Cai Liming was, the more Su Ming felt that this person was reliable. No matter how anxious Disney was, it would not tell the film and television company openly. On the contrary, anyone with a little common sense knew that in bargaining, they must conceal their weaknesses and not let the other party see through them. Cai Liming can see the other party's weaknesses, which is his ability. The conditions that Cai Liming fought for were better than Su Ming expected. The two sides cooperated to make a film. In addition to having an assistant director, Daowin Film and Television can also form a team of no more than 20 people to participate in Disney's filming and production process. But the assistant director is just a figurehead and cannot actually interfere with the filming of the movie, and the observation group cannot affect the filming and production process. Disney is quite generous. The observation group's food and accommodation are provided by the other party and treated as crew members. Box office sharing is a big problem in the negotiation, and the contradictions between the two sides mainly arise from this. CAI Liming finally came up with a very creative model and won the approval of the other party. Each holds his own bowl and eats his own meal. Each holds his own bowl, which means that Disney is responsible for the distribution in North America, and Douyin Film and Television is responsible for the distribution in China. Each eats his own meal, and the other party does not participate in the box office sharing in the region where it is distributed. In other words, the box office in China will be shared by Suming and Huaxia Cinema Line, and Disney will not participate, but Suming will not get a penny from the box office in other regions of the world. Suming frowned slightly and pondered for a moment. The North American box office is a big pie. Even if it is only a quarter of the share, it can be basically the same as the box office share in China, or even higher. He was willing to cooperate with Disney, largely because he wanted to use the other party's knife to get a piece of the cake. There was no other way, because Huaxi's knife was not sharp enough before, so he could only use Disney's sharp knife. If he gave up the box office in other regions, the effect of this knife would be weakened by at least half. But Suming was also very clear that in this filming, Douyin Film and Television only provided animals, and the main work was done by Disney. Disney's cooperation with him was icing on the cake. Moreover, in Disney's view, China's box office is also a big cake, with greater profits than all other Asian countries combined. It is extremely rare for them to give up this piece of cake. Can we strive for the box office in other parts of Asia? Suming asked CAI Liming. CAI Liming pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and said, "Yes, but we have to pay a certain price in exchange. The only bargaining chip we can offer is the local box office in China. I suggest not to use this exchange. In most Asian countries with prosperous film industries, Americans have a greater influence than us. They distribute films and theaters are more willing to accept them. If we distribute films, the money we get back may not be enough to cover the price we pay." Suming thought for a while and said, "Then we must add one more clause. In the future, our company's films will give priority to Disney's distribution channels in North America." This is Suming's false bottom line. It would be best if it can be achieved. Although this film will not make money in North America, it opens a door for the future. I don't think the problem is big, but the other party will definitely put forward some restrictions, such as it is impossible to give priority forever, maybe 2 or 3 films, and the priority will definitely not be unconditional priority. At least the priority is after Disney's own films and a few of their major partners, CAI Liming said. "That's no problem. Go ahead and do it as soon as possible," Suming said. The second contact took only one afternoon to reach the final agreement. The next 3 films will have conditional priority. Before signing the contract, the director Howard came with the script and asked for a final inspection of the zoo's animals. "Mr. Su, I must confirm that your animals are capable of completing the filming requirements. This is responsible for both of us." "How to confirm it?" Suming asked. "I can't find all the animals and perform all the movie plots for you on the spot, right?" "Oh, that's not necessary," Howard said. "I brought the script. You only need to provide the 2 protagonists and several important supporting roles in the script. According to the script, you can perform a scene." Suming first took a rough look at the script. The plot is simple and inspiring. In an animal city where all animals live in peace, Judy the rabbit has dreamed of becoming a policeman in the animal city since she was a child. Although everyone around her thinks that it is impossible for a rabbit to become a policeman, she still works hard to become the first rabbit police officer in the animal city police station full of big guys. In order to prove herself, she is determined to solve a mysterious case. On the way to pursue the truth, Judy forces Nick, a fox who makes a living by cheating in the animal city, to help herself, but finds that there is a huge conspiracy behind this case that intends to subvert the animal city. They have to work together to try to uncover the truth behind this huge conspiracy. The story of Judy the rabbit fulfilling her childhood dream through her own hard work and becoming an animal policeman. The typical American dream, the path of an American hero. All you need to provide is a rabbit, a fox-eared fox, and a shrew. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 615. Howard proposed 4 animals, among which rabbits and foxes are the male and female protagonists. The fennec fox has very few scenes, but there is a huge contrast. In the play, the fennec fox and the foxneck cheat together. He looks like a 3 or 4-year-old baby, but he is actually an old liar. The prototype is a black gangster on the streets of the United States. Shrews are an animal that looks very much like mice, but they have nothing to do with mice. They live on earthworms, insects, etc. They are the earliest placental animals and originated in the Cretaceous period of the Mesozoic era. Shrews are the smallest mammals in the world, only a few centimeters long and weighing no more than 10 grams. They are very weak. But in the play, shrews play a boss with a group of strong polar bear thugs under them. The prototype is the godfather. In addition, there are more important characters in the script, such as buffalo, leopard, sheep, etc., but time is limited, so Howard did not make requests one by one. Please follow me, Director Howard, let's see if these little guys can do it. First, find rabbits. The zoo didn't raise ordinary rabbits. These little guys were just too common. In the past, the zoo was financially tight, so there was no need to spend money to raise a group of rabbits that could be seen in the vegetable market. Later, when the economic conditions improved, Su Ming spent all his money on finding rare animals. After bringing back a large number of animals from Iraq, the beds in the zoo were tight, and even large herbivores like deer were released into the wild, let alone raising ordinary rabbits. There were quite a few wild rabbits in the back mountain, but they were chased by a group of dogs all day long. I don't know whether it was lucky or unfortunate. The foxes and dogs in the mountains were all their natural enemies. Not to mention the demonic Peach Blossom Land and the future Wild Peach Blossom Land. They were all ferocious large creatures. Although they would not eat them, they would be bullied wherever they went. Su Ming took Howard to the back mountain and caught a few wild rabbits, but Howard was not very satisfied. The heroine in the movie, Judy the Rabbit, has a very distinctive look. First of all, her ears are very long, at least twice as long as those of ordinary rabbits, and her body length is about 2/3 of that of an adult fox. The length and body size of wild rabbits are not up to standard, and 2 large front teeth are exposed when they open their mouths. Judy is a female rabbit, and her front teeth are not that big in the play. Human actors can have plastic surgery for their image, but they can't knock out and grind down the rabbit's front teeth for the sake of filming. Even if Su Ming doesn't object, international animal protection organizations will condemn it. There is another big problem. In the play, Judy the rabbit's ears can move, and they are usually erected. There are several plots where her ears droop when she is depressed. But ordinary rabbits' ears are always erect. There is cartilage in the ears, and it is very difficult to completely droop them, unless the bones are broken. That's even more impossible. It didn't work even after finding 7 or 8 rabbits. Speaking of the problem of drooping ears, Su Ming suddenly had an idea and pulled Howard to a semi-open lawn in the park. Alpacas and camels used to live here. Alpacas are so popular that they attract many tourists every time. As a result, there are almost daily incidents of alpacas spraying people, which makes adults and children make a fuss. It is very annoying, so Su Ming simply put them in the back mountain. After Wu Guangyu came, he lived on the lawn with the camels, strolling and inspecting on the lawn every day like a retired old cotter. If you look closely, there are a few furry, grass-like things on the lawn, lying there motionless and lazily basking in the sun. Can they do it? Su Ming squatted down and stretched out a finger, poking a bunch of grass balls, and the furry grass balls trembled, and it turned out to be alive. These little guys are also rabbits, but not ordinary rabbits. Their ears are much longer than ordinary rabbits, hanging on both sides of their heads like two cattail fans. The legendary lop-eared rabbit, a new breed discovered in the 1970s. Compared with domestic rabbits, lop-eared rabbits are cuter, have longer ears, and are less courageous, but are generally larger in size. Adult lop-eared rabbits can weigh up to 5 kilograms and be 40 centimeters long, which is enough for a delicious meal. There are many kinds of lop-eared rabbits in Europe, and lop-eared rabbits is their common name. The lop-eared rabbits introduced by the zoo are strictly speaking French lop-eared rabbits. During the period when the live broadcast platform became popular, various zoos came to Yangchuan Zoo to learn from it. These lop-eared rabbits were gifts from a zoo in the south. Due to the small number, Yangchuan Zoo did not set up a special rabbit garden, and they were raised here with a group of herbivores. These little guys are lazy and usually don't like to move. They lie there to bask in the sun and sleep. Their two long ears block the sides of their heads and their eyes. They can't see others, and others can't find them. At first glance, they look like grass balls, with no sense of existence, so that even Su Ming forgot about it at first. In addition to long ears and a larger body, the front teeth of lop-eared rabbits are not as big as those of ordinary rabbits, which is normal. Moreover, their expressions are richer than those of wild rabbits, and their appearance is very cute, which is very suitable for the role of Judy the rabbit in the play. Very good, Howard gave a thumbs up, and then said, but their ears are still a big problem. The rabbits in the play have their ears erected most of the time. The reason why lop-eared rabbits are called lop-eared rabbits is because their ears are hanging down. Unlike domestic rabbits, their ears are soft as if they have no bones. In fact, they have no bones, 2 pieces of fleshy skin and some muscles. The ears of ordinary domestic rabbits cannot hang down, and their ears cannot stand up. I didn't expect that I would run into trouble with my first role. It's not as easy as I thought to film with real animals. Howard looked at Su Ming with the last hope. The basis of all the negotiations between the two sides was that animals could play the roles. If even the heroine was not suitable, even with the post-production special effects, the effect would be discounted. Don't worry, I'll try. Su Ming squatted beside a lop-eared rabbit and hooked his finger. Come on, rabbit, put your ears up. The lop-eared rabbit took a deep breath as if it could understand human words, and a strange gurgling sound came out of its stomach, and it tried hard to control its ears. The two big and soft ears really tilted up slightly, but they fell down again after a slight movement. The lop-eared rabbit shook its head dejectedly, looking like I can't do it. Oh, it's amazing. Just like the legend, you are a magical animal trainer. Howard gave Su Ming a thumbs up, then squatted down and whispered to the rabbit, come on, rabbit. Su Ming's mental power surged, and the lop-eared rabbit seemed to have taken a tonic, gathered all his strength, and started to try again. The two soft ears, like inflated balloons, stood up little by little under the gaze of several people. Just do it. You can, Howard shouted excitedly. The lop-eared rabbit used all its strength and finally made its two ears stand straight. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 616. The ears of the lop-eared rabbit have been hanging down on the side of its head since the day it was born. It has never experienced the feeling of standing up its ears. With two ears standing straight on its head, it curiously turned its head to look around, as if it was not used to it. You have to get used to it slowly. It is not so easy to be a star. Not only do you have to learn to stand up your ears, but you also have to get used to walking upright. Several other lop-eared rabbits basking in the sun nearby seemed to feel that something was strange. They shook their ears to reveal their blocked eyes and looked at this strange fellow in surprise. As the first lop-eared rabbit in the world that can stand up its ears, this little guy is very proud. He showed off his two long and straight ears and refused to put them down. As a result, half a minute later, it was tragic. There are no bones in the ears of lop-eared rabbits, only a small amount of muscle. Theoretically, they cannot stand up. In the past, even if Su Ming used mental power to help, it would not be possible to do it in a day or two. Mental power can only make animals obedient, but cannot make them do things beyond their abilities. But after being strengthened by stalactites, the purity of spiritual power has been greatly improved. Although it is still impossible for animals to do too exaggerated things, such as making a cat fly. But if their body structure allows, it is no problem to master difficult movements in a short period of time. The first time to challenge the difficult technical action of erecting ears, the lop-eared rabbit persisted for 2 or 3 minutes, and the ears cramped. It was like being acupunctured, and the tree could not be put on the head. You still have to practice. Practice more when you have time in the future. Don't sleep all day. Su Ming rubbed its ears to activate blood circulation in the ears, and it softened again. After the rabbit was cast, the foxnick followed. The original body of the foxnick is an adult red fox. There are red foxes in the zoo. After Miss Red Fox was released into the wild, she was still not very sociable. She was alone in the back mountain all day. According to clues provided by insiders, Miss Red Fox has a temporary base outside the lure community, and often uses it as a base to steal chickens from the lure community. Maybe because she had lived in the zoo for a long time, Miss Red Fox thought she was unnoticed. In fact, her stealing skills were very poor and she had been discovered several times. The lure people knew that this was a guy released by the zoo, so no one would hurt it. Instead, they would secretly tie the chicken legs with ropes to prevent the old hen from running too fast for the red fox to catch. When she found it, Miss Red Fox was fighting with an old hen. Outside the chicken coop, several lure people were smiling and lying behind the wall to peek, but Miss Red Fox was completely unaware. "Don't eat the chicken." Su Ming jumped into the chicken coop, scaring the red fox. His eyes rolled around and he looked surprised. "Oh my God, when did so many people come? Why didn't I notice it just now?" As soon as he saw the red fox's expression, Howard said, "Okay. Director, female fox, is it okay?" Su Ming poked Miss Red Fox's butt. Remembering that the fox in the script was a male fox, the red fox turned around with bared teeth and was about to bite him. "Of course, no problem. Animals in movies wear clothes." "Oh, there is a scene where they don't wear clothes, but their organs will not be exposed," Howard said. The next casting went very smoothly. The white-eared fox, Gai Yozianju, is full of white-eared foxes, with 2 big long ears and small faces. They don't need Su Ming's guidance for their acting skills. They are natural and cute. Shrews are not easy to find. There are no such animals in the zoo. This is not difficult for Su Ming. After discussing with Howard, he selected 2 animals as candidates. One is the white-haired hamster, which is also a small guy that does not grow up. It is slightly larger than the shrew, but under the huge size of the polar bear's hands, a shrew is no different from a hamster. Another candidate is the jerboa that has just been obtained. These little guys can jump more than 10 times their height. A big reason is that they are small and light. Su Ming doesn't understand why these long-eared jerboas like to jump so much. Every time I see them, they jump around like pinballs. Doin, 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 the ears are waving and the long tails are flying all over the room. Howard was stunned for 2 or 3 seconds, staring at the jumping mice passing over his head in amazement. Suddenly he came to his senses and immediately decided to add a special shot for this group of jumping mice, a large group of high jumpers walking on the street. After the main roles were determined, it was the acting test. Several animals lined up and put on the small clothes that Howard had prepared long ago to audition. The audition went much more smoothly than Howard imagined. With the help of high-purity mental power, Each animal could make very vivid anthropomorphic expressions. Even due to long-term contact with mental power, the intelligence of many animals was greatly improved, and even their eyes were vivid. Okay, words of praise like God came out of the foreigner's mouth like water. Finally, Miss Red Fox showed a contemptuous expression and stuck out her tongue at him. Howard was completely convinced. I believe we can create a miracle in the history of movies together. Howard stretched out his hand to Su Ming. Cooperating with a great animal trainer like you is a gift from God to me. Of course, but I hope to create a miracle in the history of box office. Su Ming smiled. The audition ended quickly. Su Ming saw that it was still early, so he simply accompanied Howard to continue the casting work. The lion mayor, who happened to be selected from the lions brought back from Iraq, the police chief, Mr. Bison, Su Ming recommended the Chinese Kiran Wu Guangyu as the leader. Although this guy is not as big as the buffalo, he has very strong muscles. Rhinoceros, wild wolf, and leopard all have suitable candidates. There is also a sloth that moves very slowly. In the play, this guy speaks and moves as if in slow motion. It takes several seconds to spit out a word, and it takes several minutes to stamp a stamp. The sloth in the zoo is quite flexible, at least compared to the setting in the play. It seems necessary to let it live a lazy life of eating and waiting to die. The contract was finally signed with Disney. The zoo has half a month to train the main actors to adapt to upright walking and common movements. Some animals have to lose weight. For example, the lop-eared rabbit has a fat belly. After standing up, it looks like it is wearing a big swimming ring, which is obviously inconsistent with the role of the energetic girl in the play. The best way to lose weight: exercise and eat less. Su Ming was not going to the United States to participate in the filming for the time being, so he could only make preparations. In the past half-month, he trained the participating animals almost every day, which made him lose a lot of weight. After the animals were arranged, CAI selected the members of the investigation team going to the United States, and sent the documents to Su Ming's desk, waiting for his approval. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 617. The world's most mature film industry is in North America, and Disney is one of the best. This movie is the flagship product of Disney Film Company in recent years. Participating in the film process is an extremely rare learning opportunity. The newly established Douyin Pictures lacks talents the most. It is conceivable that those who can participate in this inspection team can not only improve their personal level, but also hold important positions in Douyin Pictures after returning. What's more, it is a public expense to go abroad. Therefore, the number of people who signed up was very high. Su Ming did not go. CAI led the team and served as the deputy director on a temporary basis. Nangong Huan completed Wang Jin's shooting task in advance, so he must have a place. The rest of the people will be selected from the current employees of Douyin Pictures. There is also a small episode. Su Ming originally thought that Jiao Xiao would definitely go, but Jiao Xiao weighed the pros and cons and decided to stay in Wang Jin's crew and continue to assist in the shooting. According to Jiao Xiao himself, there are two reasons. He is the assistant director in Wang Jin's crew, so he has more opportunities to learn and can be exposed to a wider range of people. If he goes abroad, he can only be a member of the inspection team. In addition, Jiao Xiao has set his future position in the domestic market. Although the North American film industry is mature, it is not completely suitable for the domestic situation. On the contrary, Wang Jin's crew adopts the Hong Kong film production model. After decades of running it is more suitable for the actual situation in Asia and China. Su Ming woke up and thought that Jiao Xiao's consideration was not unreasonable. In line with international standards, it does not mean giving up the local market. On the contrary, the importance of domestic box office will definitely be the first in the short term. The total domestic box office growth trend is amazing, and the total plate is not much different from North America. At this rate, it may be able to catch up in a few years. Moreover, there will be many restrictions on overseas distribution, and the distribution ratio is not as good as that in China. If the North American box office is a big cake, then the domestic box office is real white rice. Although the cake is good, it is not the basis for survival. So he agreed to let Jiao stay in China without any reluctance. After the list of the inspection team, there is the personal information of each person, including age, profession, past experience and performance, specialties, and Cai-Liming's own opinions and comments on this person. Cai-Liming's list was carefully prepared. The selected people are all the backbones of the newly established film and television company. After Su Ming read it, he had a general grasp of the personnel situation of this film and television company. Not only did he use his mind, but he was also very skillful. All his comments only pointed out someone's strengths and advantages, without a single bad word. However, in the personal experience of this person, there is a brief introduction. People who are interested can completely see where this person's weaknesses and shortcomings are from his personal experience. It does not offend anyone, but also reflects the actual situation to the leader very well. Su Ming smiled, this group of sly middle-aged men. Cai-Liming did not know that Jiao decided not to go. This matter was discussed by Jiao and Su Ming when he met Jiao at lunch, so Jiao was also on the list of people reported. In this way, there is an extra quota, and one person needs to be added. Su Ming carefully read the list again, put down the form, folded his arms and closed his eyes, thought for a moment, left the office, waved to call a beautiful sheep sightseeing car. Go to the back mountain. The car stopped at the foot of the back mountain and there was no road. Both wild boars were wanted by the little fairy Li Wanting, so Su Ming had to get off the car and walk into the demonic peach blossom land area from the small path. It looked like it would rain in the past few days. The sky was gloomy, and there were strange trees, rocks, and weeds everywhere in the demonic peach blossom land. Walking on the small path, the cold wind blew, which really gave people goosebumps. The animals in this mountain seemed to have learned to play tricks. Often when walking, a snake suddenly hung from the treetops beside them, and the grass shook, and a few dogs ran over. Su Ming thought that after a while, he might as well let the big flying fox live in the demonic peach blossom land. It was quite exciting to think of vampires hanging on the branches. But the style seems a bit confusing. Is it Eastern magic or Western magic? Oh no, there are vampires in Chinese legends. It is said that Zhang Qilao, one of the 8 immortals, is based on a vampire bat, or a white bat with albinism. White vampire bats, isn't that a sanitary napkin? It seems that the ancients who came up with this illusion were also very dirty. Thinking about some random things, I soon arrived at the Lanruo temple. After peeling off a large piece of weeds, I saw that the gate of Lanruo temple was bustling with people. Wang Jin's filming crew was working. The 2 leading actors were flying in the sky on wires, and a large group of crew members were busy. A large group of beautiful female fairies from the art school stood on the 2nd floor of Lanruo temple, lying behind the window and looking down with laughter. Su Ming came to look for the goblin leader Li Wanting. He looked around but didn't see her. Finally, he saw a familiar slender figure squatting on the sidelines wearing a sunshade, lowering his head and holding a small notebook, constantly writing and drawing on it. "Why, did you write down the conscription?" Su Ming said with a smile. Li Wanting turned around and saw that it was Su Ming. She smiled embarrassedly and said, "No way, Director Wang is very nice to us, why would he conscript us? I thought that since we are filming anyway, we have nothing to do, such as following behind to learn some film production knowledge. There is no such good opportunity in school." Su Ming took a look and saw that her small notebook was filled with densely written content, and smiled and said, "What did you write down? Can you show it to me? I just figured it out myself, Don't laugh at me. The little fairy gave Su Ming a tender look that made people want to protect her, and handed the notebook to him. Su Ming felt as if he had been electrocuted. This little fairy was about to achieve success, and she had an electric aura. He focused on the notebook, which was neatly filled with beautiful small characters. How to deal with actors acting like big shots, below which was written what director Wang should do, 1, 2, 3, and then she added a few of her personal thoughts and drew a smiley face. Preparation before work, another 1, 2, 3, 4. Tips on using light and camera lenses on cloudy days. This was the latest one. Su Ming took a quick look, and there were specific technical operations and experience. He closed the notebook and returned it to Li Wanting. He stared at her for a few times and smiled. I didn't expect you to be so thoughtful. Oh, by the way, didn't I ask you to follow the 2 wild boars around? Where are the 2 wild boars? Why don't I see them? Li Wanting bit her lip with a look that said, you won't blame me, will you? And said, the wild boars are taking a bath inside. I see they are so dirty, I have to fill up the gas and clean the car before returning it. Su Ming amused her, come on, I'm afraid you won't have time to ride wild boars in the future. I have a quota for an overseas study tour here. Do you want to go? Division. Today, a book friend said 404, which scared me. It turned out to be a network problem. The previous article is being revised. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 618. Going abroad for an inspection, Li Wanting's eyes shone brightly, as if a flame was suddenly ignited. Su Ming was stunned for a moment, and she blurted out, is it an inspection group going to Disney? Yes. Su Ming chuckled and nodded. She thought that the little goblin was just a little goblin, and there was still a long way to go before she could ascend to the level of magic power. After all, she was still a college student, and her city was limited. Suddenly, a big pie fell from the sky and hit her on the head. It was what she had always longed for. Yes, Li Wanting was obviously losing her temper. If she said it directly, wouldn't it be equivalent to admitting that she had been thinking about him all along? However, then I thought again, maybe this goblin did it on purpose? Give yourself the illusion that she is still very innocent? It's hard to say, really hard to say. Li Wanting seemed to realize that she had made a mistake in her words, and acted a little too eagerly. She quickly said, I heard that there was an inspection team, and I was planning to sign up with Mr. Cai, but after thinking about it, I am not from Daowin Pictures. I wasn't even qualified to register, so I didn't go. That's true. If you sign up, Lao Cai will definitely have to apply. You can't even register with me. Su Ming nodded. If Li Wanting had told him alone because she was the head of the art school students and was beautiful. After talking to Cai Liming for a few times, there will definitely be no good results. With such a tight quota, Cai Liming would definitely not cut off the company's personnel quota for an outsider. If he did that, Su Ming might even think that there was something fishy between Cai Liming and Li Wanting. Li Wanting has strong communication skills, which is her advantage. When she is away from home, Su Ming hopes to have someone in the team who can handle all aspects of matters with the Disney company. Internally, he can also coordinate the relationship between the inspection team members, so that everyone can more harmonious. Similar to the housekeeper and team leader in life, Cai Liming's assistant at work. After several contacts, Su Ming felt that Li Wanting was a perfect fit. But that doesn't mean she has to do it. There are many capable people. Once she was removed by Cai Liming, Su Ming would not be able to add her back, either to maintain Cai Liming's authority or to take care of the feelings of other film employees. Then you want me to go now? Li Wanting was stunned. Of course we can't go in vain, Su Ming said casually. Huh, Li Wanting was stunned for a moment, revealing a little charming look in her eyes. Intentionally or unintentionally, looking at Su Ming and waiting for him to continue. Ahem, what I mean is that the company can't spend a lot of money to train talents and end up helping other companies make money. Besides, if you are not an employee of the company, others will have opinions and want to go to the inspection team. The premise is that you sign a contract to join Daowon Film and Television Company after graduation, Su Ming said. Oh. She didn't know whether it was intentional or unintentional, but the long-drawn "oh" sounded like it had a profound meaning. She winked at Su Ming, pouted her little mouth, and said, "They have 1 year left to graduate, so you have to give them time to think about it. Of course, you are free to choose a job. But the opportunity for this inspection will be reported to Disney within 3 days. I have a lot of things to do, and it will be finalized this afternoon." Su Ming's tone softened a little. It is every woman's privilege to act like a spoiled child, but the nature of being arrogant at work is different. What's more, if you haven't been pampered yet, you have started to be arrogant. If she succeeds this time, wouldn't it be misunderstood by her? Do pets exist? Su Ming's attitude changed slightly, and Li Wanting's attitude changed immediately. She restrained the girl's expressions and said seriously, "Mr. Su, I have thought about it. I will go to the company to sign the contract today." "Okay. However, there is one thing you need to think clearly." Su Ming pointed to the shooting scene not far away. The heroine was resting on the sidelines. She was surrounded by several assistants like stars. They were serving tea and pouring water to wipe off their sweat and touch up their makeup. There were also a few people from the art school beside them. The female student boldly wanted to ask for an autograph. This inspection tour is mainly to cultivate behind-the-scenes work in film production, shooting and distribution, etc., rather than to train actors. You are from an art school and have acting skills. After joining this inspection group, the job the company will arrange for you in the future will definitely be behind the scenes. Yes, maybe you will never have the opportunity to be as beautiful as her in the spotlight, let alone become a household name. Most lay people will not even know that you exist. What young girl doesn't want to become a big star? Don't you want to be the national goddess and the princess in the hearts of fans? Su Ming felt that he needed to give Li Wanting a warning in advance. With her external conditions and abilities, she might not be able to make a name for herself in the film and television industry in the future. But once you choose to work behind the scenes, you are basically insulated from these. Even though the film and television industry is difficult to get along with, you art school students still have a certain affinity with our company. In the future, my company will make movies, and it won't be difficult for our company to support you if we have the opportunity, Su Ming said. It's like saying something very natural. Li Wanting's heart moved slightly. What does the boss mean when he says that? The first possibility is to literally give her a heads up, or even to euphemistically reveal that he is willing to support her as an actress in the future and give her a chance to be on camera. But there is another possibility. The boss is testing her. Many people are fighting for this spot. The boss wants to see if she is really interested in developing behind the scenes. If she becomes undecided after hearing the boss's words, it just reveals that she is not suitable for the inspection team. In an instant, several thoughts flashed through Li Wanting's mind. As Su Ming said, as long as you follow the company's arrangement and be a vase here honestly, you will always have the opportunity to be on camera in the future, and once you go to the inspection team, if you want to focus on acting in the future, it is equivalent to wasting the opportunity given to her by the company. The company cannot spend money to train people in vain. The boss personally arranged for you to join the inspection team and trained you, but you turned around and quit. It was unpleasant at that time, and even the little incense was gone. You can't be an actor or work behind the scenes. Seeing that Li Wanting was a little hesitant, Su Ming was also expected. He didn't urge her. He looked at his watch and said, "I'll go back first. Think about it before 6:30 in the evening and call me." Just as she was about to leave, Li Wanting suddenly said, "Boss Su, I've thought about it. I'm going abroad for inspection." "Oh? You figured it out so quickly," Su Ming smiled. "Being an actor is not that glamorous." Li Wanting raised her hand and put a strand of hair on her forehead behind her ear. She looked at Ab, who was drinking water in the distance, and said in a light tone, "When I was in art school, I knew that the entertainment industry is divided into different levels. The stars who seem to be glamorous to outsiders actually have the lowest status in the entertainment industry. It's like a pyramid. The bottom is the actors, and the middle level is the behind-the-scenes figures such as directors, producers, and supervisors. The big figures who really control the entertainment industry are investors and producers like you, President Su. I wanted to be a star before because I had no other opportunities, but now you have given me an opportunity." She turned her head and looked at Su Ming and said, "I think I may be a star in the future. I will never be at the top in my life, but since I have made the same efforts, why should I set my life goal at the bottom?" Su Ming smiled. "Then what were you hesitating about just now?" Li Wanting smiled bitterly, once again showing the weakness of a little woman, pouting and saying, "Reason is reason, emotion is emotion. I am also a girl, which girl does not want to be in the spotlight? It's just that I wanted to choose but I couldn't choose before, now I have the opportunity, I can only choose one, of course I will choose the better one. It's like a handsome male god who is fickle, and a husband who can treat you well for life but is not good looking. If you choose, you will definitely choose the latter, but you still feel a little regretful?" Su Ming asked. "Yes, if you can meet a handsome, good, and rich man, that would be the best, but in reality, where can you find such a man?" Li Wanting looked at Su Ming with a smile and said, "Even if there is, it won't be my turn." Su Ming pretended not to see and didn't understand, thinking that if Nangong Yan was here, you would be dead. "Flirting maniac." He coughed and continued to act like a big shot. "You are very wise. I am sure that in the future you will be glad for your choice today." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 619. In fact, after the first contact with Li Wanting, Su Ming was deeply impressed by this little demon. Su Ming knew very well that many of Li Wanting's words and deeds on that day were deliberately made by her, with the purpose of leaving a good impression on herself, Wang Jin, or anyone who could help her in the future. From a certain perspective, Li Wanting successfully achieved her goal. But from another perspective, there are many people who deliberately want to leave a good impression on their leaders, but not everyone can do it in the end. Many times, they think it is effective and the right way, but it may not achieve the desired effect, but it will be counterproductive. For example, in Wang Jin's crew, there is a third-tier actor who plays a flower demon. In the whole play, there are about 10 lines of dialogue and 3 or 4 minutes of scenes, which is between the crowd actor and the fourth female. In China, it is the kind of person whose name no one knows, and people who often watch movies can feel a little familiar when they see the face, but they can't remember which movie they have seen it in for a while. On the first day of filming, Hua Yao found Su Ming privately, and said in an ambiguous tone that she wanted to invite Su Ming to dinner and drink, and taste the famous Dashan wine. Anyone with a little experience knows what this means. After dinner and drinking, something else will happen naturally. After tasting the Dashan wine, it is possible to taste the taste of the Dashan's golden hoop. With Su Ming's relationship, whether she casually greets Wang Jin and asks him to take care of Hua Yao, or gives Hua Yao a slightly more important role in the future drama invested by Su Ming, she will benefit a lot. In order to leave a good impression on the nobles, Su Ming does not dislike Hua Yao's approach, but he does not appreciate it, and will not give her a chance. Although Li Wanting will flirt with him intentionally or unintentionally, Su Ming even gave her the nickname of a flirting maniac, but the nature of the two is different. Girls like Li Wanting and Hua Yao have outstanding looks and are full of femininity. It is natural and human nature for them to know how to use these innate advantages to add points for themselves. Although Su Ming did not want to have anything happen with Li Wanting, he did not dislike her. As a young man, it is also pleasing to the eyes to look at beautiful women. Li Wanting has a good sense of proportion in this regard and did not make things cheap. Everyone wants to be successful, everyone likes money, and men are lustful. This is human nature, and it can even be said that it is one of the main goals that people pursue throughout their lives, but there is one thing, which must have principles and bottom lines. A gentleman loves money and gets it in a proper way. I am lustful, but there are times when I can sit on the lap of a woman without being confused. No matter when, you can't make things cheap. Once you go down the cheap path, that is, lower your own level, you will also be looked down upon. The key is that if you are used to taking the cheap path, you will often forget how to take the right path. Moreover, from some small details that Li Wanting deliberately showed, Su Ming could see that she knew how to do things and how to study, and she was not just showing off for the sake of showing off. As the company grew bigger and bigger, with more and more branches, Su Ming deeply felt that the talents under his command were becoming less and less, especially the generals who could stand on their own. Wang Hao could barely be counted as one, and Zhao Yun, of course, had no problem with his ability, but he would never be 100% committed to helping him work, being a friend, a dog-headed military advisor, or an emergency commander. Most of the time, he would still live a life of leisure and wild cranes, and was keen on playing the image of a middle-aged family woman. Li Wanting knew when to advance and retreat, was capable, willing to study, and ambitious. Although she was still a little immature, Su Ming still wanted to try to cultivate her. "Why did you say so much today?" "I didn't ask you to explain." Nangongyan looked at Su Ming with a smile, and poked him lightly on the forehead with a finger like a water onion. "Are you feeling guilty? People have to be clear and speak clearly. I won't be allowed to explain today. If I don't make it clear, I can't stand it in the future." Su Ming laughed. News director is a very interesting position. The position is not high, and the power is not heavy, but the information is very well informed. No matter how big or small, several companies can't escape her eyes, and she controls the company's most core and most extensive computer information network. Li Wanting replaced Xiao Xiao to go to the inspection team. It is basically impossible to hide it from Nangongyan. A woman's face is like the weather in June. It changes at any time. Today, she said it's okay. Just go. I don't care. Who knows, she might be in a bad mood that day, and her aunt will come to visit, and she will pull this matter out and cry and say that you have someone outside. It's better to tell the truth as soon as possible. Of course, you have to be selective when you explain the problem. As for Li Wanting, Su Ming was frank and had nothing to hide, so he could tell Nangongyan. It was better not to mention the flower demon, so as to avoid trouble. Speaking of which, Su Ming still felt a little itchy after rejecting the flower demon, because the girl was too charming. "Young man, I don't understand your thoughts." Sister Nangongyan sat on Su Ming's lap and said, "What do you mean by the 36 stratagems? If you openly build a plank road, you can secretly cross the warehouse. When the enemy is paralyzed and careless, it is the opportunity for our army to attack." Bang! Nangong and Su Ming were both stunned, and 2 buttons of their shirts were broken. "Clumsy, you can't even steal fish." Nangong couldn't help laughing. "Just tear it off." Su Ming's old face turned red, and he held both sides of the shirt collar with his hands gritting his teeth, ready to tear it apart. Instead of hiding, Nangong straddled Su Ming's legs with his long legs. He flicked his long hair, straightened his chest, and almost hit Su Ming's face. He raised his chin and said with peach blossoms in his eyes, "If you can, tear it up. This is an office." If you tear off your clothes, let your wife go out without any clothes and be seen by others. A burst of blood rushed to Su Ming's two heads. The force was so strong that he tightened Nangong Ding's legs and lifted his butt upwards. Let's let you go for now. Let's settle the score tonight. Su Ming picked up Nangong like a big doll and threw him on the sofa. What kind of world is this? There are crazy flirts running around in the streets, and no one cares about them anymore. Nangong leaned on the sofa, lowered his head to fasten the buttons on his collar, and said, I was going to talk about business, but as I was talking, I started to move. I've made arrangements. I'm free tomorrow, let's go together, Su Ming said. In the university group, ever since Su Ming came to the zoo, they have been clamoring for Su Ming to treat him to a meal. Su Ming has always agreed, but he always forgets, he has this problem. He even forgot that he had agreed to treat Nangong Yan to a meal. Later, Su Ming's business grew. Some classmates who were not familiar with Su Ming didn't know about Su Ming's situation. They asked him to invite him to dinner once or twice and stopped mentioning it. The students who know the situation may feel that the level gap between the two parties is relatively large, and they are embarrassed to mention this issue again. In fact, Su Ming is embarrassed, and he is thinking of inviting the classmates to get together one day. It's not that anyone invites whom. Among those classmates, no matter how bad they are, they still don't miss a meal. It's just a gathering for everyone. Coincidentally, shortly after the graduation anniversary, there was a class reunion, and Su Ming was invited. Dividing line. I have already gone through the first 300 chapters, and it will take about 2 or 3 days to revise them. If there are no problems after the revisions, the update can be resumed. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 620. If Su Ming followed Su Ming's stereotype of class reunions, he would have had a certain degree of resistance to such gatherings. When I was in school, my classmates were not very different from each other. Although some people's family economic conditions are good and some are poor, different classmates may have very different family backgrounds. There are people like Wang Hao whose father is a high-ranking official, and there are people like Su Ming whose parents are in rural areas. However, due to the specific environment of the university, whether you are a proud man or a common man, if you eat in a large cafeteria, the most common thing is that some people spend 10 yuan a meal, and some people eat less meat and spend a meal 2 or 3 yuan. Living in the same dormitory, no matter how rich you are, there are 6 people in a dormitory. Winter is extremely cold and summer is extremely hot. At most, the rich can use a notebook worth 10,000 yuan in the dormitory. For computers, those who have no money use second-hand desktops. Therefore, life on campus minimizes the material and class differences between people. There is no label such as money or power on everyone's head. There are more differences, and the system is based on each person's different personality. Superior. On campus, the most popular people are often not necessarily the richest in the family, the one with the biggest official position, or even the ones with good external conditions. The first category is students with special talents. For example, boys are good at football, can play the guitar, and are good looking. The second category is those with good personalities, such as Wang Hao, who is carefree, broad-minded, and not fussy, and there are also people like Shen Yan, who although usually taciturn, but when everyone is in trouble, someone who can help will help, or someone like Yang Tao, the squad leader who organized this party, who can take care of other students like a big brother. All in all, on campus, the interaction and attraction between people minimize external things. Getting along with a person and liking a person are more about appreciating the person himself, rather than attaching to him. Of additional value. But in society, this is completely different. Originally living people with different personalities, like commodities, have been labeled with various labels. He is a civil servant, he is a small boss, he is a school teacher and has a staff, he is an employee of a state-owned enterprise, he is a city dweller with 2 houses in his house. Through these labels, the most intuitive way to judge a person is to dilute the person's own personality. In school, young students often say, "So what if you have money?" In society, a sentence that is often talked about is "a good person, what a good person to use as food." After entering society, people's values will definitely change. Things that were considered important before will soon become insignificant. And things that were never thought of in the past suddenly become a lifelong pursuit under the pressure of reality. A person who has become rich does not return to his hometown, just like walking at night in fine clothes. Nowadays, many classmates' reunions, in the name of connecting with classmates, have turned into a performance to show off achievements in front of old classmates. The rich show off their money, but they come late and punish themselves with a drink without saying anything. "I'm really sorry. I just signed another big deal worth several million. I really can't help it. Please forgive me." A few people who usually don't care much about the economy changed the topic to the recent housing prices while chatting, complaining that the housing prices in the East District were about to rise to 30,000. Then one of them smiled faintly and said that fortunately they started early, and it was only in the first half of the year. Bought a house. Those who have a house show off their house, and those who don't have a house show off their car. I sat down on the table and inadvertently put my mobile phone and keys on the table. The classmates around me looked at them and saw that they were driving a Mercedes-Benz. They were doing well. The people over there laughed at themselves and looked at their grades in the class. "It's not as good as mine." Now people drive Mercedes-Benz, and I drive a Cadillac, a second-tier brand. There are always people who will cheer for this kind of occasion. The ones who don't say anything must be those who don't even have cars. Those who drive Toyota laugh when they see this. He, Cadillac is also a luxury car, like I drive a Toyota. Male classmates compare houses, cars, and money, while female classmates compare themselves to husbands, with feigned dissatisfaction on their faces. Don't envy me. My husband socializes outside every day and has too much business. I don't even have time for him to travel with me. No, he didn't even accompany me when I traveled to Dubai this time. I'll show you the photos. As he spoke, he calmly walked to the cloakroom, took out his LV bag, took out his mobile phone from the bag, shared selfies of his trip to Dubai with a few of his girlfriends, then casually put the bag on the table and printed it. The side with the sign faces the outside. There was a quiet girl opposite who saw it, sighed and said, "It's better for you, she married a rich man, the one in my family sits in the office all day, she looks pretty good, everyone calls her boss when meeting her, but with just that little salary a month, people are still not free." MRSLV smiled and asked what your husband did. When Jingnu smiled lightly, he was just a small director of a certain bureau. The whole table was in awe. The quiet girl showed a satisfied smile after eating, and said calmly, "Hi, I am a little official, that is, he is younger. He is only in his 30s this year. He will still have good career prospects in the future development, otherwise I would have asked him to resign and go to sea." Speaking of youth, the LV girl's little face twitched a few times. After 3 rounds of drinking, and after getting drunk, and probably understanding each other's current situation, the atmosphere on the table gradually became warmer, and several small circles were formed unknowingly. Those who have children at home are close to those who are teachers. In the future, when their children go to school, they will have to rely on you, an old classmate. Those who are doctors and those who are civil servants are talking about staffing. I heard that hospitals are going to be reformed recently. Have you heard about it? A few ordinary people started chatting and gossiping, talking loudly and loudly, the whole box could be reached. There was war again in the world, and the situation in that place was unstable again. They gave pointers and saliva flew everywhere, as if they were in a United Nations. The former class beauty looked at the old classmate who became the big boss, and felt very uncomfortable. Why was she so blind that she rejected him? Marrying the man you are now, apart from being handsome, there is nothing you want. Squint your eyes and take a closer look. The more you look at this guy, the more masculine he looks. Naturally, the beauty of the class can't escape the eyes of the rich classmate. You two drink to me, and I leave you. You come and I go, not a few seconds. It was as if I had found the feeling I had when I was in school. I mentioned things from my college days and half joked, saying if I had known you were so capable, how could I have refused you at that time? The rich man looked at people after drinking, and the more he looked at them, the more he felt like back then. The boss of class beauty MILF has a unique flavor. Now that she has become famous, she should make up for the regrets she had at the beginning. After a banquet, someone used the wine to show their face, took out their wallets and yelled at me to pay the bill. Anyone who didn't buy it for me didn't give me face, and they couldn't stop me. They didn't get along well and spent the banquet in vain. I have done well and show off my success in front of my old classmates. I feel happy and satisfied. The wealthy man smiled and said to the half-drunk class belle, I will drive you to him. The class belle pretended to be ignorant. Send him back and send him back. You can't do it. Bad idea. The two people got into the car and drove away. After several class reunions, the people who came were no longer as neatly organized as the first time. Those who got along the best quickly lost interest in this kind of occasion. Those who didn't get along well got a lot of irritation every time they came. Only a group of middle-class people were left. At the banquet, each of them took out what they could and continued to compete. At the same time, behind the scenes, they gossiped about the people who didn't come. Such and such divorced their wealthy husbands, and so ran away from business. Well, who went to rent a room with whom after the last class reunion, and was discovered by her husband? Many class reunions have changed. They are no longer just old friends chatting and reminiscing about old times that they have not seen for many years. They are filled with all kinds of uncomfortable things. So Su Ming was originally not very interested in class reunions. The reason why he went to the class reunion this time was that everyone had graduated not too long ago, so the social atmosphere should not be too strong. Besides, his own business is not small, so it would be nice if he didn't show off. There shouldn't be anyone showing off in front of him, that's just looking for trouble. The main reason was the convener of this gathering, Yang Tao. Yang Tao was Su Ming's class monitor in college, a classmate in high school, and the roommate of Su Ming and Wang Hao. This man had a good relationship with Su Ming when he was in high school. They were not close friends, but they often played together. Later, they went to the same university and ended up in the same dormitory by chance. Su Ming was willing to go mainly because of Yang Tao's face. It can be said that there is no controversy about Yang Tao being the class leader. The more than 50 people in the class basically voted in favor because this person is very loyal. Wang Hao is also righteous, but Yang Tao's righteousness is not the same as Wang Hao. Wang Hao is the kind of carefree person. If something happens, he will slap his chest, brother, don't worry, my brother will help you take care of it. Then the matter was resolved vigorously. But Yang Tao is different. He doesn't talk much, and he doesn't make any sensational plots. When he encounters someone who needs his help, he often solves it quietly. Sometimes the person involved doesn't even know that Yang Tao has helped. There is no airtight wall in the world. Over time, the students all know that Yang Tao is a person who is dedicated to doing good things and is truly righteous. Of course, this is not to say that Wang Hao is fake and righteous. Wang Hao is an extroverted righteousness, while Yang Tao is a calm type. He can handle things smoothly and within the smallest range of influence. The monitor of some classes is purely the assistant and eyeliner of the class teacher, helping the class teacher manage the students. However, after Yang Tao became the monitor, he basically always stood on the side of his classmates. There were conflicts and disagreements between the classmates, the class teacher, and the school. Understood, Yang Tao was able to mediate and strive for the best interests of the students. Strangely enough, Yang Tao helped the students speak out. Not only did he have high prestige among the students, but the head teacher and the school also thought that the student cadre was very good. Yang Tao, the class monitor, started working in the second semester of his sophomore year and worked until graduation. His family was from out of town and ran a small business at home. After graduation, he seemed to have joined the family business. Segmentation. Today is a big chapter of 3,000 words. I am working hard to revise the previous manuscript. Many chapters need to be overhauled. About 50 of the first 300 chapters have been revised. It is a headache.